Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com. Thank you for joining us today. We got some interesting news that has popped up. It's pertaining to week one of the college football season now. Will Alabama continue to play USC? Of course, they hope to plan to play USC, but there's kind of been some talks that Alabama might be looking for a new opponent should the California schools not be able to play in week one. Thank you for joining us. My name is Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com. We'll take your calls throughout the show, 205-686-3604. We're also going to have our team writer of BamaInsider.com, Tony Sukalis, will join us just in 5 minutes to kind of talk about some different scenarios that could take place for the college football season. Thank you for joining us. Again, hit the like and subscribe button. We appreciate you guys being here. It's interesting to see what's going to happen this season with college football, because I think you have different states having some are being aggressive. I feel Alabama's being aggressive, and why wouldn't they be? Especially in the SEC. I think when you look at the giant spectrum, how much does college football mean to Tuscaloosa, for example? And then also you have to look at the overall cases that are happening within COVID-19. So it's an interesting scenario. And Alabama and USC scheduled to play on September 5th of 2020 at Jerry's World, a game I was really looking forward to. And I'm not sure if that game's going to even take place now. I know that Alabama certainly wants to play USC, and why wouldn't you? I was talking to our team writer, Tony Sukalis, who we're going to have on in just a minute, that in my opinion, I would like to have Alabama versus USC above Alabama versus TCU. I know TCU could be exciting. It could be a new look, but I think for the overall brand, I think it would be good for Alabama to play USC. I think Alabama will beat both of those teams handedly. And I think it'll be interesting to see what plays out. Now, the reason TCU could be a potential opponent in week one is because TCU plays at Cal in Berkeley also in week one. We're going to go ahead and bring Tony Sukalis on right now. We're going to talk about this a little bit. And then, of course, we'll take your calls at 205-686-3604. So adding Tony right now. Tony, you're on. Thanks for joining us today. Some interesting news, obviously, with Alabama potentially seeking out, different opponents for week one. And why wouldn't they, right?
Yeah, it's just a smart move. I mean, like you mentioned earlier in the show, obviously option number one is to play Southern Cal as planned, the way it's supposed to be. And then, if that's not going to be a possibility, I think TCU wouldn't be a bad second option if that's what they're going for. I mean, that's somebody that, they haven't played since 1975. So somebody new, I think Alabama would probably easily win that game, right? But it's still something that, at least give a Power 5 program that, maybe Alabama fans haven't seen in a while.
Now, Finebaum talked about it a little bit today. Earlier, I guess I missed that, but talk about your article today, kind of just about some different scenarios that could potentially play out should the California schools not be able to play.
Yeah, so this all starts with, if one of these teams is not going to be able to play, it's looking like that would obviously be the California schools. If Southern California, Clay Helton, the head coach at Southern California, talked about the potential of an all Pac-12 schedule for Pac-12 teams, and that's a possibility. Obviously, that would rule out games like the opener, and it also rule out games like Cal and TCU. So that's where this is kind of coming from. It's kind of interesting, we had at Bama Insider, we had been kind of tipped off to this, and it kind of seemed like an interesting idea, and then we were able to confirm it today. But it's something that we had kind of heard about a little bit, that the possibility of scheduling something with TCU. It kind of makes sense that, if the California schools can't make it, that TCU is, right there in Fort Worth. So not far away. There's been reports of TCU and Cal kind of talking about contingency plans already if that game's not going to work. I think everyone's first option is to play the team that they're scheduled to play. I would say it's probably the same for TCU. They'd rather have that trip to Cal because I'm sure that's a home. I haven't looked, but I'm pretty sure it's a home and home for them. So, obviously they'd want that to go through as well. But if things can't work out that way, I think it's a good option for both Alabama and TCU, especially TCU, because here's the thing. There's probably less of a chance that Alabama's game gets canceled than there is TCU. They could both get canceled, but you got to look at it. The TCU Cal game is in Berkeley, and the USC Alabama game's it's in Texas. So, I mean, it wouldn't necessarily, if California is not open yet, well, it's still not necessarily a home game for USC. So maybe that makes it more possible. I guess that's basically, where we're at the moment.
We're on, we have Tony Tsoukalos, our team writer at BamaInsider.com, talking about some potential, shakeup for that week one. Now, obviously, nothing's confirmed. Alabama still wants to play USC. And as I said earlier on the show, I think it's a better setup if Alabama does play USC. It's a bigger brand than TCU football. I think, recruiting wise, especially you get a lot of eyeballs on that game if it takes place at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. Now, I'm kind of, I guess talking about different scenarios that could happen if Alabama does play TCU. Would that game still be in Jerry's World? Where would that game be? Would it be at Bryant-Denny Stadium? And I guess all those different scenarios have to come into play. But the SEC obviously being super aggressive about, marching on with their season. What are your thoughts about kind of the SEC coming together? And, it really looks like they're putting their foot down and they want to march forward towards the college football season.
Yeah, definitely. First off, I think that game against TCU would be in Arlington, would be at AT&T at Jerry's World. If it does go with TCU, I don't think that they would change the venue. That just would probably create too many complications this close to things. But so Alabama and the rest of the SEC looks like they're optimistic, you would say, to be able to play. I know Greg Byrne the other day talked about playing in front of fans in Alabama. That's obviously the goal. I think really these decisions are gonna be made in more in June and July early. They're gonna need about 4 to 6 weeks to prepare for the season. So if they're able to have that, when you start going out, I guess at that timeline, then you'll start really knowing some of these things. Right now, everything's kind of at an early stage. That's why we say Alabama might be having talks with TCU. Who knows? Maybe they're having talks with multiple schools. I wouldn't blame them for doing that. We were able to confirm the TCU aspect, but it would make sense to have talks with, several schools, to have those options ready in case, because we're all in a fluid situation right now. No one really knows what's going to happen in the future. So having these options, I think, is really smart.
Yeah, I think so. And I think one of the other things when I'm thinking about, the college football season is the fact that Alabama's front end schedule includes Georgia. So Alabama needs a quality opponent to be ready for Georgia, that week 3 game. And obviously Nick Saban doesn't want the season to be postponed. And, Alabama and Georgia open up for that week 1. I mean, can you imagine, or not for week 1, but like week 1 being in week 3? Do you get what I'm saying? If like Alabama,
there's a chance that if you were to just play an SEC schedule, then you would possibly start with Georgia whenever you start with them, So I get what you're saying there. Yeah, that'd be tough, right? That'd probably be.
And my question is this: like, if Alabama and Georgia do play to open the season, I mean, would there be fans in the stands? What and how would they go about having that? The magnitude of that game, and hypothetically, you could see those teams play week 1 for the college football season, and then again, you got to think that Georgia, rising could be a game you see in the SEC championship. I mean, they could potentially play first in the last game.
Sure. Yeah. I'm not sure who it would hurt more. Actually, it might actually help Alabama more if they do play Georgia first. Cause I mean, I'd imagine it'd be tough for Georgia to break in a new quarterback first game of the season against Alabama. You think from Alabama's perspective, you don't want to play a team like Georgia right out the bat, but I don't think Georgia wants to play Alabama right out the bat. So that'd be an interesting game. The problem with that game for me, from a neutral standpoint, is it might be a little bit. I want that game to be at its full potential, and it might be a little bit sloppier if it's the first game of the season.
All right, we're going to open up the call line here for a few minutes and take some calls. We want to talk. We want to hear from you. How about this? Are you excited about the Alabama TCU hypothetical matchup? But maybe this is more interesting. Are you willing to go to games with fans in the stands? I think that would be an interesting, call to get your perspective on how everything's going. Calling, or if you want to just, have Tony on the line and just, he's our team writer. We're writing about, talked about quarterbacks yesterday, talked about running backs. So we could open up the show and take some calls. So 205-686-3604 is the number to call in. It's right on the bottom of your screen. And I'm with you. I have Brad rolling right here on on the comment box. I can't imagine the games with fans not in the stands, especially in a game like Georgia and Alabama. I mean, we wait all year for a game like this, and then to have it with no fans. And I think the SEC obviously has to be aggressive about this, especially when you talk about the economic impact that these schools have to their certain cities. For example, Alabama football, how much it means to the overall economy to Tuscaloosa, right? I mean, if Alabama doesn't have fans in the stands and they don't have college football, it's the city's wiped. So you have to be aggressive in that aspect. I get it. Safety is certainly important and always should be, but it's almost kind of like, it could be it's going to be tough, I guess, for the officials to make that final word. But I'm glad to see the SEC moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like they're going to make, their best chance at an informed decision, and I think that's why they're not trying to jump to any conclusions right now. They want to kind of get their word from the medical experts, see what they can do, and kind of roll from there.
All right, looks like we got a call coming in, so we'll go ahead and take this call. And hello, you're on the line with Kyle Henderson and Tony Sakalas. Who are on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
So, Kyle, this is David. I'm calling from the state of Louisiana.
Hey, David, how you doing? Thanks for joining us on this fine Tuesday. We're talking about hypothetical Alabama versus TCU. It's kind of some smoke in the air on that. It's your show, though. Go ahead and take it. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I agree with playing a Power 5 team, which TCU is considered a Power 5 team. I remember a while back that Saban talked about wanting to do a 10-team SEC play, game schedule, and then having 2 Power 5 teams. I would like to see Alabama play, like Ohio State or Clemson first game of the year, or you can knock them on out of the top 10, top 10.
Hey, David, we'll answer that on the line. The connection's not that great, but we did get Tony, you heard that, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people would be
on the line, though, David. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would be interested in an Alabama Clemson game at the first game of the season. We kind of got that with it didn't turn out the way that we thought it would, but when it was Alabama versus Florida State, that was 1-3, right? So everyone thought that could be the kind of game where they could end up playing again in the college football playoff. It certainly didn't turn out that way.
No,
it's so hard to schedule games like that.
Interject here, but Tony, but like that Florida State game, then Alabama just ruined Florida State's program.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe this guy's hoping that maybe Alabama, if they played Clemson, would do the same. No, I doubt it. But I think that these games are so hard to schedule like that. So it'd be nice. I think a lot of people would want to see like a marquee game like that right off the bat. It's just kind of these schedules are made so far in advance and they're so hard to make, and so we won't see that at least in the near future, just because we kind of know Alabama's schedule moving forward.
Call line is open, 205-686-3604. Sorry we had to move on, David. The connection just wasn't that great, but we did get your call in. Tony had an article today on the running backs, and we're kind of talking about rehashing each positional group as we continue to move through this long summer. Tony, Najee Harris returns. The best running back in all of college football, in my opinion. It's not being fancy. I mean, I just look at what he did at the end of the season. Talk about Najee Harris and kind of some of the running backs that are returning for Alabama. I know you're excited about one particular redshirt freshman.
Yeah, so this article, this series we're doing is kind of looking at the next up, so that the options after the starters, so but Najee Harris is definitely a sure thing and a guy that, a proven 1,000-yard rusher. I do think that Alabama's got a lot of mouths behind him. You alluded to redshirt freshman Trey Sanders, a 5-star kid that, suffered a season-ending foot injury in fall camp last year, and he's a guy that I think is going to have a really big season. I'd also like to see what Brian Robinson does in his senior year, because, it seems like he had the opportunity to have a breakout season last year. And he wasn't bad, but he wasn't great. He had the lowest yards per carry of all of Alabama's backs, and just never really broke any big plays. And I was kind of expecting more out of him. And then, outside of those two, I guess those three really, there's Keelan Robinson, who's got the quick burst of speed, kind of a home run threat. And then they've got 3 freshman running backs who are all 4-stars. So you're looking at a backfield of 7 players that are all 4-star or higher, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I think when you look at that running back group, and I had a freshman spotlight, and a lot of you watched it on YouTube. It was on Jace McClellan, and I just didn't understand the physicality that he has coming back. I'm really excited about him, and I'll continue to pump those out. Roydell Williams is another guy that a lot of people are excited to see in that backfield. Same with Kyle Edwards. I think, those running backs certainly fit the mold. And I want to talk to you, and call line is open, by the way. We'll be on here for a little bit more, and then we'll break out and get you guys back to your, the rest of your Tuesday. But Brian Robinson, it's kind of the curious case with Brian Robinson with me, because what type of back is he going to be this season? A lot of people have kind of already moved on and put Najee Harris and Trey Sanders, but Brian Robinson is a guy that had a lot of high expectations. I believe he was a 5-star in Rivals, and we got another call coming in, so we'll go ahead and take this, Tony. All right, hello, how you doing? Here on the line with Kyle Henderson and Tony Tsoukalis. Who are on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
This is Joe from Essex City, Alabama.
How's it going, Joe? How's your Tuesday going? How's your Tuesday been?
It's going well. How about you guys?
Doing great.
Pretty good.
I was just going to talk about how I've been hearing about the SEC maybe possibly being the only ones that play their schedule and just playing the SEC schedule. Do you think that could be a possibility?
I certainly think it's at least a possibility. I mean, I think there's a possibility that we'll have a college football season that's a lot different than what we're used to. And I think it might be a case so that we just have to take what we can get in terms of football. So if that means that I'm not sure the SEC would be the only conference playing, but it could mean theoretically that, conferences are only going to play within the conference. And that could create a lot of, I guess it's just an interesting season in terms of just something being different than what we're used to.
Yeah, I kind of want to. Okay. Sorry, Joe. I want to cut in here real quick.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And kind of jump in on that. It would be interesting, I guess, if they went to just an all-conference format. What would that do? I guess for the bowl games or for the title games, So let's say just the Power Fives had their own conference games. Would that just with the championships? It would end there, or would there still be bowl games, or would there still be a playoffs? What's your take on that, Tony?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they would be able to have a playoff, and then the bowl games, would there be enough teams to have all the bowl games? Would you have to just pick and choose the bowl games? I don't know. You would think that they'd want to have a college playoffs just because that's such a money generator. And, hopefully by that time, everybody would be able to play. But here's a scenario. What happens if the SEC starts in September, the Pac-12 can't start until October, they end at different times? You're going to have somebody waiting around for, a month and a half, 2 months before they play in the playoff. That just seems weird. You might, one option might just be kind of going back to old school, and you might not really have a playoff or a championship game, or, maybe this is just a weird college football season where you just have to rely on the rankings to determine. And I know that's going to cause a lot of mess, and I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but that's at least another option in all this.
All right, go ahead, Joe. Back to you. Sorry about that. It's just you brought up such an interesting point, so I wanted to interject there. Go ahead.
Oh, you absolutely answered the question that I was going to go into. So,
all right.
I was going to ask, how would they play it after that? If other conferences were going to play their schedule, would we then meet at the end? But you kind of went into that, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. You got anything else? Why you have us on the line?
No, not right now. Y'all guys just keep up the good work. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Joe. Thanks so much for calling in. Appreciate it.
All right, roll time.
Yep, take it easy. All right, 205-686-3604 is the call-in line number. We'll take a couple more calls, then we'll get you on your back to your Tuesday. Interesting news coming out, just that Alabama could potentially have a new Week 1 opponent. And, it's been good to start talking some college football. We talked about Tia Tagovailoa entering the transfer portal. And then, now this news, which would obviously be huge news if Alabama and USC cannot have that date in, I think it's September 5th down at Jerry's World. I was looking forward to going to Jerry's World. I've never been there. What about you, Tony? Have you been there?
Yeah, I guess the last time I went was for Alabama versus USC. I, for one, wouldn't mind a TCU just because it'd be something different. I feel like I've already seen the Alabama Southern Cal game. But that you're right about the Alabama Southern Cal game being kind of a marquee matchup between two classic programs. So it's always nice to see those two.
Yeah, kind of dipping back to the running backs, and you can read Tony Sukalis' article back on BamaInsider.com. I was talking about Brian Robinson. What's kind of your, I don't want to say expectations, but like where do you think Brian Robinson can fit into this team? I mean, do you still feel that, he has enough talent to contribute at a high level, or do you think he's kind of almost moved into that that just power, almost fullback type player for Alabama?
I think he'll have the opportunity, and I wouldn't actually be as high as I am on Trey Sanders. I wouldn't be surprised if out of the gate, if you're looking at like a depth chart or like an early carries, I wouldn't be super surprised if Brian Robinson is inserted before Trey Sanders, just given his experience and kind of he earned that role. But I think he's got a short leash in terms of carries, because I think here's the thing is I think he'll get the opportunity, but if he doesn't come out strong, I think Trey Sanders is such a talent that he might just kind of usurp him for some of those carries, and it might be Najee, then Trey, then Brian, and then you're really starting to lower some of the carries. And we saw that last year when Alabama just kind of stopped giving the ball to Brian. I think he only averaged like 4 carries over the last 5 games or something like that. So he'll need to this is a big first few months for him, or for whenever the season starts, to kind of get off on the right foot.
Yeah, I think, when you're talking about Trey Sanders and, you have Kellen Robinson, and Saban said many times that he has a juice, and a lot of people on our YouTube channel, they're like, do something on Kellen Robinson. And you're right. I mean, this is a different style of back that Alabama has. I mean, you have Najee Harris is 235 pounds, Brian Robinson probably the same. Those 3 incoming freshmen probably all over 200 pounds. Then you have Kellen Robinson, who's a different style of back. Tony, we saw splashes of him last year. I mean, he's certainly an electric type player. Talk about Kellen Robinson a little bit.
Yeah, so he's like a home run hitter too. He's a guy that can score in any play. He's fast. He could get him the ball in open space. I would think that Alabama could use some 2-back sets just with how many backs they have, and we've seen that work in the past. And he's a guy I think that could be somebody that you could utilize in there. And maybe split him out, as a receiver, or use him on some kind of jet sweeps, or just different ways to get him the ball in open space, because that's where he really excels.
All right, and for the last part of the show, if you're a new member, if you subscribe to the channel, we'll give you a shout out right here on the channel. First shout out going to Big B, who just became a new subscriber, so we appreciate it. Thank you for joining us on BamaInsider.com. If you guys are new to the channel, my name is Kyle Henderson, and our team writer is Tony Sukalis, along with Andrew Bone and Tyler Waldrop. We make up BamaInsider.com. Tons of great content all the time, every single day on BamaInsider.com. And if you're curious to get behind that paywall, the promo code at checkout is simply Roll Tide, and it's one word on the checkout. And if you have any questions, you can always email me. My email is kyle@bamainsider.com. Believe the call line is still open, so if you guys want to, get a couple calls in with Tony and I, we're talking, potentially Alabama having a new opponent for the week 1 college football season, whenever that is. We also talked a little bit about, what would happen if Alabama and Georgia were to play. We got another new member coming in, or that's Big B still. Big B, we see you, man. You're all over the channel. We appreciate it. And we also talked about the running backs and the talented running backs that Alabama has in their backfield. It's ridiculous. And I always go back to this, and I think I've said it, a few times on our channel, that Steve Sarkisian, when he first talked, and I guess it was one of the only times he talked was last year before the season, he said that a lot of his offense is predicated on opening up the passing game with the running game. And I think Najee Harris certainly is that guy. And so many people excited to see Najee Harris. Tony, without question, Najee Harris is he the best back in college football, in your opinion?
I think he's up there, but I think Travis Etienne would also want a word with you on that too.
You have Hubbard as well.
And Hubbard, yeah, Hubbard as well. So he's in that group of a handful of guys that are.
We got a call, Tony. Let's take it.
Big time players.
How's it going? You're on the line with Kyle Henderson and Tony Sukalis. Who are we on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
Hi, this is Asher from Texas.
Hey, what's up, buddy? How you doing today? How's your Tuesday?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. What'd you say your name was?
Asher.
Asher? Okay, cool. You're on the line, man. Take it.
Hey, so I'm actually a TCU fan, and back in 2018 we played Ohio State at Fury World, and it actually got quite a bit of hype. So all I'm saying is, even though TCU isn't as big of a brand as USC, I bet TCU would still be able to get TCU Alabama would be able to get quite a bit of hype.
I definitely agree. I mean, it's still a Big 12 team, and it's you got Texas, and they're right there too. So they've already got a big time fan base in that area. I think it's both. It's great for both teams. It is a great second option. I mean, to USC. I for one would really just from an interest standpoint kind of like to see that. I haven't seen TCU, so it'd be cool. And I'm a Texas native as well, so it'd be nice just to see it from my perspective. But I think they're both good options.
Yeah, and I think, TCU, you talk about a week one opponent that could be, interesting. You look at what TCU did at the end of the season. I know they were only 1-4 down the stretch, but talk about that game against Oklahoma. They took it to them. I thought that was a game where they were going to beat Oklahoma there at the end of the season. I'm sure you felt the same way, Asher. But you're right. I think, having TCU in the Fort Worth area, just hopping over to Jerry's World, it would be a good second option if Alabama and USC cannot take place. What else you got for us, Asher? How excited are you about Zach Evans, man?
Oh, I was going crazy yesterday. It was the first 5-star recruit we've ever had, and just a lot of hype in Fort Worth and the TCU community, which is nice. So hopefully that can be like a door for more 5-stars to give us a look.
Anything else, Asher, while you got us on the line?
I think I'm good. That's just kind of it. If TCU and Cal don't work out and Alabama, USC don't work out, I think it'd be a great second option. The location works, and both Power 5 schools. So,
well, definitely agree.
Thanks for calling in, man. We appreciate it.
Yes,
we obviously got a lot of love and respect for the Lone Star State. So call again next time, and call again if this matchup does take place. Asher, take it easy, buddy.
Also, TCU has a winning record against Alabama. Not many teams can say that.
I saw that. That was interesting.
3-2 against Alabama. So there you go.
I saw when you put that up. So, well, thanks for joining us today on the program. My name is Kyle Henderson. He's Tony Sukalis. You can catch all the work back at BamaInsider.com. We hit on a variety of topics, but the main topic was Alabama and TCU. It looks like there could be some discussion about that particular game taking place if USC cannot open up the college football season. So we appreciate you guys calling in. We appreciate all the comments on the comment box. And I know I said that there was going to be a recruiting show Monday night. We have changed it this week to Tuesday night. So at 8 p.m. Central Time, I will join Andrew Bone, and we'll take your calls and we'll talk some recruiting going into what could be another big week for recruiting for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. We'll catch you soon back at BamaInsider.com. Thank you for joining us today.